John Mackenzie lurked in the corner of the dimly lit living room, watching the rain fall against the open windows of the old farmhouse. His heart pounded in his chest, the only sound that seemed able to pierce the eerie silence that enveloped the house. John returned home in the evening to find his wife Sarah missing. A feeling of dread crept up his spine as he searched the rooms, calling her name, but stumbled into overwhelming silence. It seemed as if the house had been abandoned, save for the steady pounding of rain on the roof. As he paced the floor, desperately searching for any sign of Sarah, a faint sound caught his attention, a barely audible whisper coming from the basement. John moved cautiously toward the door, and the floorboards creaked beneath his feet. The cellar was in darkness, with only a dim light in the corner. Gathering his courage, John descended the stairs, his footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. As he approached the source of the light, he froze, his blood turning to ice. There, curled up in a corner, lay Sarah, her eyes wide with terror and her lips trembling as she spoke the words, "Don't tell anyone." Before John could react, a figure emerged from the shadows, a dark silhouette that sent a shiver running down his spine. "Well, well, well, look who decided to join the party," came a husky voice that sent shivers down John's spine. He recognized the voice. It belonged to his neighbor, a reclusive man who always kept to himself. But the way he spoke, his menacing tone, was nothing like the quiet, reserved man John knew. "What did you do to her?" demanded John, his voice shaking with fear. The man laughed sinisterly. "Oh, I haven't done anything to her. Not yet." He moved closer, and his features, illuminated by the flickering light, revealed a face contorted with anger. "You see, John, your dear Sarah is the key to a secret I've kept for a very long time, and I will not let her or you get in my way." John's thoughts raced haphazardly as he tried to make sense of the situation. What secret was this man talking about? And why did he have Sarah? The answers seemed to elude him, getting lost in the swirling darkness that threatened to engulf him. Suddenly, he noticed movement in the corner and saw Sarah struggling against the bonds, her eyes pleading with him to do something to save her. Without thinking, John rushed forward, determined to free her from the madman's grip. But the man was faster, his reflexes honed by years of experience. He grabbed John by the bony fingers, digging into his flesh, and slammed him against the wall with force, knocking the air from his lungs. "I can't have you messing this up, can I?" He reached into his pocket and pulled out a syringe, its contents shimmering in the dim light. John's eyes widened with horror. The man was looming over him, and the syringe was ready to inject a lethal charge into him. Desperate to survive, John slammed his fist into the man's jaw, and his fist snapped with a crack. The syringe fell to the ground, shattering on the concrete floor. The man jerked backward, grabbing his face, and John took the opportunity to lunge for the stairs. But as he climbed the stairs, he heard a terrible sound, a low, hoarse growl that sent a chill down his spine. Risking a glance over his shoulder, John watched with bated breath as the man transformed, his body contorting and twisting in a horrifying spectacle. First sprouted from his skin, his facial features turned into a ghastly mask, and his arms lengthened into sharp, deadly claws. John realized he wasn't dealing with a mere man, but something far more sinister, a creature of the night, a creature of pure evil. And as the creature lunged at him, mouth wide open, John realized that his only hope of survival was the whisper that had brought him here. In desperation, he fled through the house, his footsteps echoing like the beats of a drum. The unearthly howls of the creature haunted him, a symphony of terror that threatened to consume him. John raced to the front door, fumbling with the lock, his heart pounding in his ears. When he opened the door and sprinted outside, he saw Sarah, still bound and helpless in the basement, her eyes full of pleas for his return. John raced through the storm, rain pelting his face as he tried to bridge the distance between himself and the terrifying creature that had once been his neighbor. The pieces of the puzzle were spinning around in his head, gradually coming together to form a coherent whole. Obviously, this was no ordinary person. The transformation John had witnessed defied all logic and reason. Something supernatural was at work here, something evil, and Sarah had somehow found herself at the center of it all. As he ran, the whispers in the darkness grew louder, leading him forward and urging him to uncover the truth. John knew he couldn't turn back with his wife's life hanging in the balance. He must find a way to stop the creature and save Sarah, no matter what it cost him. The road ahead was treacherous, the darkness broken only by occasional flashes of lightning. But John didn't stop, his heart pounding with fear and determination. He had to warn the authorities, to call for help before it was too late. Finally, he reached the nearest town, his clothes soaked through and his body shaking with exertion. He stormed into the local police station, words flying out of his mouth in a frantic mess as he tried to explain what had happened. The police officers were skeptical of his story at first, believing it to be the ramblings of a madman. But when John described the creature's transformation, a chill ran through the room, and the officers realized they were dealing with something far more sinister than a simple kidnapping. Without wasting a moment, they assembled a team and raced toward the farmhouse, sirens wailing. But as they neared the house, there was a deafening roar in the air, and John realized that the creature had sensed their approach. The officers burst through the front door, weapons at the ready, and then they were met with a sight that made their blood run cold. The creature, its eyes glowing with unholy rage, stood over Sarah's battered and bruised body, her blood dripping from its claws. John watched in horror as the battle unfolded. The officers' bullets seemed to have no effect on the monstrous creature. It was as if the creature was powered by a force beyond the natural world, a force of pure evil that could not be stopped. In the end, it was only Sarah's desperate screams that spurred John into action. Grabbing the discarded pipe, he lunged at the creature, his heart pounding with a fierce determination to save his wife, no matter the cost. The pipe slammed into the creature's side, eliciting a roar of pain and fury. It turned its gaze toward John, mouth wide open, ready to deliver the final, fatal blow. But in that moment, John saw a glimmer of hope, a spark of humanity in the creature's eyes, a glimmer of the man it had once been. And desperately, out of his last strength, he pleaded, "Please don't do this. I know you're out there somewhere. Let her go." The creature's claws were a few inches from John's face, its hot, acrid breath washing over him. John stood still, keeping his eyes on the creature, silently begging it for the humanity he knew was still in him. Suddenly, recognition flashed in the distorted features of the creature's face. Its grip loosened, and it let out an agonizing howl that sent shivers down John's spine. The officers, sensing an opportune moment, opened fire, and their bullets sank into the creature's flesh. With a final crushing roar, the creature collapsed to the ground, the life slowly draining from its eyes. John rushed to Sarah and hugged her as the medics tried to stabilize her condition. Her eyes, once full of terror, now glowed with relief and gratitude. In the days that followed, John studied old newspaper clippings and obscure historical records, piecing the puzzle together. It turned out that the creature was the last remnant of an ancient dark cult that had once thrived in these parts, practicing magical rituals and sacrificing innocent victims to appease their wicked masters. And Sarah, as it turns out, is destined to be the latest in a long line of sacrifices. John and Sarah flee the city, leaving behind their familiar life,